All right, welcome back, everyone, to Get the Mic, the only show where your host on the left, Al,
And your host on the right, Brock.
dissect fiction for its mythological significance. And as usual, today we're talking about Dragon Ball. But we're hoping to have that change in the near future as we are wanting to do more live streams with some contemporary topics. Spoder being one that we might talk about very soon.
Yeah, it probably should be pretty soon. We had a little bit of a conversation about Spider-Man, and I think we're talking about
There's
No
even
Way Home,
more
obviously,
room
but
to talk.
there's actually, I think it's worth talking about, and we both have had that same mentality in the past. Like, if we're gonna join the conversation about media, we should at least have something to say. I think there's something to say.
Right. And that's the one thing that I didn't want to do, was to be forced to make videos about things that I didn't care about. For example, that I don't have any desire to see The Matrix unless we do a shit the mic on it.
Yeah, I think that it could be a good meme.
But nothing like what we're doing here with Dragon Ball. So anyways, just to say our plans going forward. So we're probably going to do one live stream, possibly Sundays, if we can get it consistently.
If we can work it out, yeah.
Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. This next 3 episodes that we're going to see are all a reference to Toriyama's other comic, Dr. Slump, that came before Dragon Ball. Just kind of want to preface it a little because it's going to seem, and for us it's been very strange watching it as well, it's going to seem very out of sync with the rest of the story.
Yeah, I think this is what I would consider a soft canon, right? Where this was Toriyama's intent for this to happen. It didn't play out the same in the manga necessarily, but at the same time, it's kind of it's like a special, you know? It takes a break from everything that we've done so far, and all of a sudden our entire cast of characters is replaced for a few episodes.
Right. And so that's kind of what I mean. And you guys will see as we get into it, especially if you haven't seen it. This might be a little jarring for you. All right. So the first thing that we see here, we're going to see a little flashback of what happened last episode. Right. We left off our heroes. They got back to Roshi's Island, and they had the diamond after escaping the Pirate's Cave, as well as the Dragon Balls. Launch steals the diamond, which we talked about last episode, and how it had to be launched to do so, to protect its value from Blue, who can't even comprehend the value of that enlightenment. And Blue also arrives to steal the Dragon Balls. So pretty much where we've left off is they escape the cave and they're waiting for Launch to return after she sneezes and realizes that she stole the diamond. And that's pretty much kind of where we're at. They have no intonation that Blue has even survived.
He literally jumped out of a helicopter and just landed on his feet here behind the Kame house and is spying on them. Which is funny, we see this with Blue multiple times where he just jumps from really high places and then lands perfectly fine. I think that's sort of representative of how Blue carries himself and how obsessive and orderly
how he can
is,
manipulate the order in which he inhabits, and that's right. The elevation is part of that.
Right, and so as he jumps down, it's sort of like he's the king of heights in his mind.
Sure, yeah, and you're right. He does that multiple times. And that's where he jumps down. He has some rope and a time bomb in his hand. I didn't even realize he had it this early in the episode.
Yeah, I had forgotten he had the rope in his hand as well. It's kind of funny. If you're thinking about it, you're like, what is he doing? Why does he have a rope?
Right. And this episode, by the way, is called Penguin Village, or the other one is
It's like Chase to Penguin Village.
Chase to Penguin Village. Yep. So it's very focused on that Penguin Village. Are there any? There are no penguins in Japan, are they? No. There couldn't be. Naturally.
I don't think so.
Just curious. Oh, and we also get to see this Roshi dance, which is amazing. One of my favorite little Roshi things.
It's great.
All right, so let's go ahead and move on. Like I said, we might go pretty quick through some of these. So while they're waiting for the return of Launch, Roshi looks at Launch's panties and daydreams, and our heroes discuss their next moves. Bulma says she has no desire to keep encountering chaos in the form of the Red Ribbon Army and says that she's going to stop looking for the Dragon Balls with Goku. Goku says he's going to continue to pursue the Dragon Balls until he finds his grandfather's ball. And while they are speaking, Blue hatches his next plan to use his ability, his psychic ability, to animate the ropes that he has brought along. Now, this psychic ability is a little different than the last one. But it's not that disgust that allows him to paralyze his opponents. In this instance, it's that dedication to order that allows him to fasten the chaos in the room that can be exhibited through Goku or Roshi, any of those.
Well, that's the restrictive, constricting nature of orderliness, right?
Right. Made physical,
binds,
yes.
Because that's what the orderly does, is that it binds things together. It just defines those categories.
That's where I was getting with it, yeah.
Yeah. And so he uses his ability to do that. He extrapolates it out and separates it from himself, right? Because he knows from encountering Goku that he can't just use that on Goku, right? And I guess inherently knowing that this is Goku's master as well, he wouldn't be able to use his psychic ability in that same way just to stare down Roshi and to intimidate him
against Roshi,
all
right?
of that, right?
Well, it's another reason why he uses this, right?
And so instead he takes it, he separates it from himself and it lets that propensity do his bidding for him instead of him doing it and getting his hands dirty, right?
As a person tends towards that tyrannical order, that there's like tendrils, and I love that it's rope because it's almost like tentacles, and you can think of tentacles like authoritarian ripples throughout a society, something like that, right?
Right.
It's very on the nose for its symbolism. And so they crawl into the house, the ropes do, and they prepare to attack our unsuspecting heroes. But before we continue, I do want to mention one thing, and that is Bulma asked Master Roshi for an airplane, and he says he doesn't have an airplane, and so Bulma laments that she doesn't have a way home because she doesn't have the shrink band anymore, and
she doesn't have anything from her father, right?
Yes, exactly. And so Roshi says, "Why don't you stay here and be my lover?"
He literally says it.
And she just kind of cries at that. She doesn't really respond to it too much. But it's funny because...
It's funny given what happened in the last episode, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, well, not only that, but it's in here. It's funny because that's always a route that Bluma has been tempted by, right?
Right.
And so it's almost Master Roshi just pointing out her flaw to her as the ancestral spirit does. Because it's not... I don't think it's a real intonation of Roshi wanting her to stay there or anything like that.
No, that's
but
the
it
test.
is. It's the pointing out of her flaw, right? That here it is, just like when Geppetto points out Pinocchio's donkey ears and tail, right?
And it's also important to say that this interaction between them happens while the gym is gone. You know, Launch is gone, and we see that Roshi is daydreaming about Launch now that she's departed. And so, in the absence of Launch, Roshi points out, it's an empty house. I don't, and that appreciation, right, is gone, you know, and the boon is gone, and we're sort of back to ground level, at least for the moment. So there's this kind of, it's such a short period of time that they don't have the diamond.
Even then, even back in season 1, Roshi never asked her to live there, right?
Right.
This is kind of an expansion of that.
It's like to say, like, oh, so you do appreciate the masculine. Do you want to, you want to settle down?
I'm the
masculine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the spiritual masculine. So I just like that. This is like the only time they could pull that joke off and have it work within the framework of what they're doing with the diamond, right? Because it has to be gone and then come right back.
Yeah. And that's the thing. That's why it happens here and not later on. And so the next thing we see is the ropes spring out and attack our heroes and tie them up, right? Binding them, let's say, that tyrannical order, too much order, is able to constrict and bind the freedom of people.
It even binds Turtle.
Turtle's face is funny there. So they have to watch as Blue takes the Dragon Balls and leaves behind the time bomb. Blue opens up a capsule, and inside is a fast-looking jet plane, and he gets into it to get away. Now, he leaves the time bomb for 5 minutes, and a happy little time bomb, and says for them to enjoy their last moments of terror. And then he leaves.
Right. And that's his undoing, right? That he can't, it has to be terror, you know, that
That's his main thing.
that he needs to impose what he thinks is a proportionate amount of terror to them. And so he leaves the window open for the feminine to return and then set the balance back again, right?
Right, which is the reintroduction of chaos that allows them to break free of the tyrannical order and save themselves from the time bomb. But we're gonna get there in the next thing. So, we do see Blue launch return, right? Spirit of the Mother, let's say, and they all freak out and beg her, like, "Hey, come get this time bomb out of here." Before she gets there, though, everyone tries to struggle free of the ropes. Roshi says he's going to use his rope escape technique.
Yeah.
But instead he farts and blushes, and everyone, we have that comedic moment. Now, that's almost to say that Roshi is not afraid of this situation.
In a sense, because
he's willing to show his vulnerability in the face of terror.
True, and I think that the balance of what's going on he's a bit more aware of, which is that Blue lands on the island and Launch leaves the island. Blue leaves the island, Launch immediately returns to the island, right? There's this balance here where with the arrival of what Blue represents, which is that tyrannical order, there's no space on the island for Launch to even be there. The like you could say the nurturing or
definitely Blue Launch.
The nurturing or malicious, you could say, feminine spirit. He has no respect for any feminine spirit, right? He's tyrannized it, and so she's gone. And as soon as he's gone, she comes back and then sets the order back again. And so you can see that it's symbolically his tyranny only works when she's not there.
Sets the order back, but sets the way back because it's
well, that's probably the wrong way to say it, since order and chaos have such weight, but sets things back into balance, I should say.
That's a better way, yeah.
Because it's like I want to say that it doesn't literally play out this way, but she symbolically is an anchor. Like whenever she's there, she offsets that tyrannical orderliness.
Well, not only that, but she also stymies the lecherousness of Roshi because it's directed towards her, which it more or less should be versus Bulma, right? Because Launch can take care of herself. Bulma in the beginning is really exploited by Roshi and her own decisions. And so it does reset the order as well as kind of allowing Roshi to continue on as master, right? And so after struggling with trying to get the time bomb out of there,
which is too heavy for Launch.
Right? Launch, in the spirit of the mother, cannot lift up the terror of the world and expunge it. That's not her power, let's say.
Right, with this time bomb being
but she knows what she can do, and that is she can undo the tyranny on Goku and allow him to do what Goku does. And that's why it's Goku that gets untied, by the way. It's because Goku, his spirit, is the one that can lift up the terror of the world and expunge it.
Right. And so that is something...
Which is actually really excellent foreshadowing for the next arc after these Orale episodes.
Yeah. Well, I do like that it's... There's always this potential that Roshi could just fix the situation that they're in, and it doesn't play out that way. A lot of people look at that as sort of a logical plot hole in the way that the show's written, but whenever you understand that they're trying to impart this idea and they're trying to respect what the characters represent, then it's okay that Roshi is like, oh, I'm going to break out of this rope. I can't break out of this rope, and I farted.
Well, also, the spirit, the ancestral spirit is not destroyed by terror, so it doesn't really matter anyways.
Right.
Really, who's in danger in this is Bulma.
Ultimately, yes.
And so Goku saves Bulma again.
As the heroic spirit repeatedly does for her, right?
Yes. And so then he calls out to the Keentone to chase Blue down. And as he's following Blue, Blue is unaware that he's able to get away until he finally catches up to him. They go faster and faster until they break the color barrier of the cartoon and everything changes color. They arrive in a strange place, Blue thinking he was heading towards a red ribbon base. And Goku is determined to get the Dragon Balls back from Blue and using the radar to do it.
I love the how would I say? Well, first of all, it's a bit of a gag, right? That breaking of the color barrier, because it's like getting faster and faster and faster, and then it's like there's fire that appears on the front of it, so it looks like he's breaking the sound barrier, right?
And
yeah,
then
you
it
can see
just
right
goes
there.
on to Goku.
And then Goku does literally the same thing. He's just standing there in the same pose, just lighting on fire.
Right. And it is almost, but it is that equivalency of saying this technological advancement can be matched by strength of spirit.
Right. And obviously they're symbolizing going into a different world, essentially, by having them go through this, like, it's almost like a pink dimension. And we saw it in the title little splash screen, right, where it's almost like the landscape is melting into pink.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's essentially
very whimsical.
It's like they go through a portal here into another world, which
is what I like how they do break the color barriers, because it kind of separates that out.
Yeah, it's very aware of, like, okay, we're no longer in the Dragon Ball world. We're going to tell this story inside of this other world that Toriyama has created.
Right. And Penguin Village itself, we see a little bit of it here. It has some monsters, some zany characters. Some of the houses are mushrooms, which are interesting to note. Toadstools specifically. Like I think one of them's a reverse Amanita muscaria, white with red dots.
Mm-hmm.
Just to relate some of that, I think I haven't read Dr. Slump, but it seems almost like this is, and it's funny that it precedes Dragon Ball because it's almost like an innocent, untainted world.
Yeah, it's like a Paradisa here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's funny that is what that's what Toriyama did first, and then went into Dragon Ball. It's almost a myth before the myth.
Right. I think that this is Toriyama's little paradise and all of his characters are like chibi in style, and they've got big heads, and they're like dwarven almost.
Yeah. And Senbei, and we'll get to this when we get into it, but Senbei can like break the fourth wall and things like that. So yeah, very very interesting, very interesting place, and I think we will get to some analysis on it. There's a lot of nothing though, and just the shots panning over, but we'll get to that. So they all arrive there, and oh no, did I not do this one right? Let me see. I might be able to fix it on the fly. So they arrive in Penguin Village, and we meet some of the Dr. Slump characters like Arale. Yeah, I'm gonna be able to fix it. Arale is here, and she is, I didn't even realize this before, but she is a android.
Right. The majority of our cast of characters we're seeing that are important are, I believe, androids built by Dr. Slump, right? Dr. Slump is sort of this mechanical genius. You know, he's Arale calls him the doctor, right? Because he fixes people who are androids.
Right. And there's one of them there, Obacha Man.
Obacha Man.
We'll never forget his name now. So we get to see a little glimpse of Penguin Village. We kind of cut away from Goku's chase, and we meet the characters of Dr. Slump inside this coffee house as they chill out. All the kids are on spring vacation, but they're going to do what is right, like their homework or get a job.
It's really funny because I think that Toriyama he sets up the strength of his characters, his physical strength, based upon their moral and spiritual strength. And so this area is a lot of unseeming, small folk, you could say, who are very powerful because they're strong in spirit. And so we
Yeah,
see
who
that people are
yes.
oriented toward goodness.
And that's another reason why it's like a Paradisa thing, is
Right.
because almost all the characters are. Although I did read that Senbei himself is somewhat lecherous, but it's kind of interesting because even in how it works out in these episodes, it's not really Senbei that solves the problem.
Yeah, I want to say up front, since I have also not read Doctor Slump and I have very little familiarity with these characters, we're not going to be able to do the level of analysis towards
If
these
it's even
characters,
there.
assuming that it's there.
Yeah.
That potentially could be done. Maybe we'll return to this at some point, but there's just too much Dragon Ball to focus on.
Definitely. So, there's Colonel Yellow. I mean, not Colonel Yellow. There's
Yeah,
a Tiger Man.
There's Tigerman.
So I think the last thing I do want to mention before we move on from this is that one of the characters, that ginger girl there, is the one that comments on how all the kids are boring
Right,
in,
her name's
in the town.
Akane, I
Akane.
think. Yeah.
Well, that was the last thing I was going to say about her, so won't mention her again until next time.
Yep, she'll be back.
All right, so then we finally get back to Goku and Blue, and Goku catches up to Blue and uses his power pole to knock his jet off course. Blue has one last resort. He turns off and feigns almost a surrender. He turns off his engine. Goku gets close to him, and at the last second, Blue uses the jet propulsion to knock Goku off. I put the Noibo because I'm a fool. Off the Keen and Goku falls to the ground. In his celebration, Blue is not looking where he is going. He's not following the way, let's say. He's let himself be bemused with chaos for a minute and crashes into the side of the mountain. The last thing we see is Goku lands safely in front of Arale and her two cherubs. What did you call them?
Gachan. She said they're named Gachan.
They are named Gachan. Excellent.
They are one eldritch being named Gachan.
Yes. And so I do I do have a couple last things to say here, like with Blue's strategy, right? Which typically will, in that feigned surrender, is something that a disingenuous spirit can undertake that can fool the heroic spirit. And that's why it's able to knock Goku off the way, is because he is genuine in believing people's intentions.
What's interesting, though, is that in this space, when he does that, he dooms himself to failure because he's attending to Goku's failure. I think that's sort of representative of that Paradisa that we're at here.
The next step,
in this place, to make the hero fall from the way is to doom yourself to fall from the way as well. I don't think that he can extrapolate himself in the same way, and he can't trick Goku and win because he's not. This isn't the territory of the Red Ribbon Army.
Right. Nor is it just more of a chaotic neutral space like the Pirate Cave was.
Right. Because of the balance in this space, it's sort of like if you make a negative action, it seems like, and we'll see this in the next episode, if you make a negative action towards somebody,
almost anyone. Automatically it doesn't even have to be Blue.
Comes back on you.
Right. It doesn't even have to be Blue that does it. But right. And that's where we want to get with our analysis of Penguin Village, I think, is that it is that predecessor Paradisa to Dragon Ball. But I think that kind of ends us off. The last thing that I do want to talk about is Arale's design. So the only thing that she is physically lacking is that she's nearsighted. She has to wear glasses, right?
Right.
Which can say, right, that she's not the one thing she's lacking in spirit is that sight as well, that wisdom, right? She is a naive spirit because she's not exactly a human. She's more of, and I think it's indicated on her hat, like a Mercury type.
Right, with the wings.
Yes, with the wings. A Mercury type spirit, which also lacks that ultimate wisdom, and that's why Mercury's not like the highest god, right?
Right. Well, this is the separation from how Goku is here, right? Where Goku's sight
And
is
it's
a
funny because
powerful element
Goku
of him.
at the end of these three will be like, "Oh, there's so many people more powerful than me," but it's like he's kind of missing the idea. But go ahead.
Well, yeah, missing the idea of the power. Well, that was the one thing I wanted to point out as well with Arale is that she's got the winged cap.
Yeah.
And
But what did you think about the glasses?
I think you're right about that. I think that as we get into this, and we're not going to spend too much time on it, but typically when you see androids being created and being animated by a central creator, they're expressions of that creator, right?
Mhm.
And Dr. Slump is this technological father of all of these androids. And so this positive aspect that he's created in not just Arale, but all of these other people, it's sort of like an extension of Dr. Slump, right? And so we can see some of Dr. Slump's own nearsightedness later on as we get into the next few episodes as well.
Yeah, exactly, and it correlates really well.
Mhm.
So we're definitely not trying to say anything bad about Dr. Slump. It's just that we aren't aware of it as much as we are Dragon Ball.
Yeah, this is going to be a cursory glance, and we're going to try to project some some of our mythological analysis onto it on a quick drive-by, essentially.
We hope to do that. But I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah.
All right. So if you liked what you heard, please give us a subscribe. We're also on Rumble, so give us a subscribe. Give us a like if you liked what you heard. If you disagree with what we were saying, comment below. If you know anything about Dr. Slump, we'd love to hear it. Please tell us.
Please inform us, because we've looked at very little, and we're trying to get through it so we can get to some of the best moments in all of Dragon Ball.
Exactly. So if you have anything to say, please, we'd love to hear it in the comments. Other than that, we hope you guys have a good evening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
I'll never forget the day he showed up. And so, he told us that he was Goku. So we started calling him Goku Black. He looked down on all of us and said he was going to exterminate the human race. I have not only mastered Goku's powers, I have made them my own. I am a freedom part and divine. You don't understand, Saiyan. Your time is already at an end. That's where you're wrong.
an enchanted land that seemed untouched by the steady march of time, there lived an old master named Gohan, who found a baby boy abandoned in the wilderness of the region. The old master raised the boy as his own child, and marveled as the youngster grew and became uncommonly strong. Now the boy, known as Goku, is on his own, and has become the sole guardian of his grandfather's most mystical possession, his Dragon Ball.